Welcome back to Daytime, back with another serious topic, and that is sexual assault. And what do you do when you have been a victim of sexual assault? How do you approach police? It's incredibly difficult for so many people. My next guest is a lawyer and also a workplace investigator with JoAnn Meloche Law. It is JoAnn Meloche herself. How are you, JoAnn?
Hi, fine.
Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So what happens then? What does happen when somebody reports sexual assault to police?
Right. Well, actually, that's the reason why I'm here to talk about, because most of my clients, I've done this work for over 20 years, and people always say if I knew what this was going to be like, what was going to happen once I reported it, I never would have done it.
Really?
And in fact, reporting rates are something like 5%. So I've seen that so much throughout my career that I thought, at least maybe if people were informed or had some kind of idea about what it was going to entail before going into it, the expectations might be different, and there might be it might be easier to get through. So first of all, I suppose it's to make the decision to report, which is often delayed. People often delay the reporting because of trauma that's associated with it. Might be somebody that they know, actually quite likely that it's somebody that they know, whether it's in an employment context or the dating app or a family member or something like that.
Right.
So there's often a lot of reluctance and to go to the police. But once they do go to the police, it starts the chain of activity. And that's why, for what I think is, at that point in time, they should have legal advice to know, because once you go to the police and have that police interview, you can't go back from that.
Well, and JoAnn, the nice thing is there is free legal advice available, right?
Right. The province of Ontario actually have a victims line that provides 4 hours of free legal advice to an individual in Ontario who's qualified that is a victim of sexual assault and wants to come forward, or just wants to be informed. They can call that number.
Okay.
It's online, and they should be able to find that and come with their questions or just get some advice as to what the next steps are.
You mentioned getting things in motion. So once you report to police, what happens after that, JoAnn?
Right. So you'll be interviewed by a sexual assault detective. It's videotaped. And you see, women often feel like they're to blame, or they're somehow, there's a lot of shame associated with it. They can become defensive because it's, I shouldn't have gone there. Why did I drink like that? And nobody's going to believe me. So you kind of come in with that attitude. So once you start being questioned, and it can feel quite oppressive and difficult for people to go through that interview. So it's important to be prepared for that, because obviously the police are doing their investigation job. They have to ask probing questions. But there will also be a lot of questioning that is maybe very private and personal, that's not relevant, and that's why it's important to sort of understand all of that before going in.
Can you give examples of that?
Medication that you might be on, medical treatment that you're getting, some type of prior sexual history.
Right.
People want to come forward and they want to say, they want to be believed, so they don't hold anything back. But then that videotape, of course, is disclosed to the defense if the case goes forward, and often the information that you've provided in there is used in order to make applications for admissibility of all of this other inadmissible information.
Right. Are you provided a lawyer then in this type of situation?
You might be under certain circumstances, but normally not. People often think the Crown Attorney is their lawyer, but they aren't.
Okay.
The Crown Attorney is really there to represent the public. But I remember when I was a Crown Attorney, people always thought that I was there for them, but you're not. You will be provided with a lawyer in certain circumstances where, for instance, the defendant is bringing an application, like I just mentioned, to get at your medical files, psychiatric records, introduce prior sexual history. They have to have a reason to do it because it's inadmissible on its face. So in those circumstances, the judge will order that a lawyer be provided. There's a list, mostly defense counsel on the list, where the individual can pick a lawyer, and that lawyer would represent them only for the purposes of that motion.
And I always imagined, and I think a lot of people have this same feeling, that you end up going through the trauma yet again,
Yes.
especially if it goes to trial, right?
Right.
So how does somebody that's a victim of sexual assault prepare themselves for trial
Right.
with that in mind?
Well, that's the thing, of course, and all they're often not prepared for the fact that they're going to be waiting a long time. It takes
Right.
like 1.5 to 2 years, at least that amount of time. So, you're right. Like, how do you prepare for that? Well, you just have to be prepared to accept the way the system works and not have any expectations as far as that goes. But also, there is a victim witness assistance program at the
Okay.
court that is there to provide information to individuals and to help guide them through certain rights that they have. They can be accompanied to the court, throughout the court process. They can ask to give their evidence by video outside of the courtroom. These are all applications that could be made, but you need to know to ask for that.
Right.
And you can also prepare yourself by reading through the transcript of your original statement or your statements, because you have the right to refresh your memory with that, especially in light of the passage of time.
JoAnn, really appreciate you coming on and talking about this important
right.
subject, because, as you said, there's, the statistics are quite frightening.
Right.
JoAnnMeloche.com, by the way, if you want to get in touch with JoAnn. We'll be right back after this.